Fractions exam preparation. So by now you should have covered the following topics within this section. We started out with discussing the different types of fractions we have. We explored equivalent fractions and simplification. We then moved on to mixed numbers and improper fractions, how to convert from a mixed number to an improper fraction and back again. We then discussed fractions of quantities. And then we discussed addition and subtraction and how we can only add or subtract fractions if they have the same denominator. And when they don't have the same denominator, how we can find the LCD and convert the original fractions to equivalent fractions with the LCD as the new denominator, and then simply add and subtract. We then moved on to fraction multiplication, multiply the numerators, multiply the denominators, but look to simplify before multiplying. And then we discussed fraction division, where we take the division calculation, but we flip the second fraction and change it into a multiplication, and then treat the calculation as we treated fraction multiplication. And they're the core topics we covered within this section of the course. And within this topic, we now will cover the common exam type questions that you'll face on fractions and how we can address or solve those questions. Our first example is from 2019 paper 1 question 2. We're asked to evaluate 3/8 times 1 and 5/7. Give your answer in its simplest form, and this is for 2 marks. So this is a fraction multiplication question. The first thing we want to do with fraction multiplication questions is we want to convert mixed numbers into improper fractions. So let's do that. 1 and 5/7 is equal to 1 times 7 plus 5 over 7, which is equal to 12 over 7. We covered the conversion of mixed numbers to improper fractions in the fraction types topic of this section. So now that we have an improper fraction, 12 over 7, let's plug that into our calculation, and we get 3/8 times 12 over 7. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to simplify our fractions where possible, as this will make our multiplication easier. So we can't simplify within the fractions, but we can simplify across fractions diagonally. We can divide the denominator of 8 on the left hand side and the numerator of 12 on the right hand side by 4. Our fractions then simplify down to 3/2 times 3/7. We can then multiply the numerators and the denominators, and this gives us 9/14 as our answer. So for fraction multiplication, we converted the mixed numbers into an improper fraction. We then simplified where possible to make our multiplication easier, and we then multiplied the numerators and we multiplied the denominators. Okay, our next example on this slide is from 2018 paper 1 question 2, and it's for 2 marks. Evaluate 2 1/3 plus 4/5. Now this is a fraction addition question. Again, our first step is to convert improper fractions to mixed numbers. So we have 2 1/3. Let's convert that to a improper fraction. So it's 2 times 3 plus 1, which is 7/3. Okay, so this gives us 7/3 plus 4/5. Now we can only add or subtract fractions if they have the same denominator. We do not have the same denominator, so we need to convert these into equivalent fractions with the same denominator. And to do that, we need to find the LCD, the lowest common denominator between 3 and 5, and that's 15. So we want to convert these original fractions into equivalent fractions with the new denominator being 15, the LCD. Now to do that, we multiply 7/3 by 5, top and bottom, and we multiply 4/5 by 3, top and bottom, as this will give us both fractions with the LCD as the new denominator. So this gives us 35/15 plus 12/15. Now that we have both fractions with the same denominator, we can simply add the numerators together. So this gives us 47/15 in improper fraction form, or 3 2/15 in a mixed number form. So for fraction addition, we converted our mixed numbers to improper fractions. Then we converted our original fractions into equivalent fractions with the LCD as the new denominator, so that we could simply add them together. And then we simply added, and we could then simplify our answer. Now, with these questions, with any questions within an exam, take a step-by-step approach when answering the question. Don't try and do multiple steps on the one line. If you take a step-by-step approach, it's easier for you to follow when you come back to check your answer, and it's also easier for the marker to follow. Our next example is actually from a specimen paper, paper 1, non-calculator paper, question 1. Evaluate 2 3/8 divided by 5/16, and this is for 2 marks. So this is a fraction division question. As all fraction questions, we want to convert our mixed number into an improper fraction first. So that's 2 times 8, 16 plus 3, which is 19 over 8, and that would be divided by 5 over 16. Now for fraction division, we want to change our calculation to a multiplication by flipping the second fraction. So this gives us 19 over 8 times 16 over 5 as we flip the second fraction. Now, before we do the multiplication, we want to make our lives easier, so we want to simplify. We can cross cancel by 8, and this gives us 19 over 1 times 2 over 5. And then multiplying the numerators and multiplying the denominators out, as we did in fraction multiplication, this gives us 38 over 5, or 7 3/5 as a mixed number. So the key point of note on fraction division, and the fraction division questions do come up regularly in the exam, is we want to change our calculation to a multiplication by flipping the second fraction. Okay, our final example is from 2016, paper 1, question 2. It's also for 2 marks. We're asked to evaluate 3 over 4 and times brackets a third plus 2 over 7. Give your answer in its simplest form. Now for this question, it's probably easier for us to add the 2 fractions that are inside the brackets first. So the LCD for the 2 fractions inside the brackets, 3 and 7, the LCD, lowest common denominator, is 21. So let's change those into equivalent fractions, but 21 is the new denominator. We multiply a third top and bottom by 7. We multiply 2/7 top and bottom by 3. And this gives us 7 over 21 plus 6 over 21, which is 13 over 21. So our calculation becomes 3/4 times 13 over 21. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to simplify, and we can do this by cross cancelling by 7. So this then gives us 1 over 4 times 13 over 7, and now we can multiply the numerators and multiply the denominators, and this gives us 13 over 28 as our answer. So in this example, we involved brackets. Now we could have used algebra if you've covered the algebra section of the course and multiplied into the brackets. It was actually simpler for us to do the addition inside the brackets first and then multiply by the fraction outside the brackets and get our answer. So that's it for our exam, common exam type questions on fractions. Let's move on. Next steps, section practice and section tests. So by now you should have covered all the learned material for this section. Your next step is to practice. Practice for this topic covers all the skills learned within this section. You'll be presented with exam level questions, and as with other practices, you'll be supported with hints and full work solutions to assist you where required. Please practice until the system confirms you have mastered the section skills. Once you've mastered the practice, please take the section test. Here again, you'll be presented with exam level questions, but without the support of hints and work solutions. So this test will be similar to your end of section school test and the exam itself. And in this way, it'll help gauge your level of understanding of the section as a whole. Once you've completed the section test, you should review your test results. The system will mark your test and provide work solutions for all the questions taken. You should study the solutions in detail for any questions you happen to get wrong, and then close out any related knowledge gaps by revisiting the relevant learn and practice areas as required. Repeat this cycle as many times as required until you consistently achieve a score of 90% or greater in the section test. Remember, the work you put in now will develop your skills and also build your confidence, both of which will greatly assist you at exam time. One final note, print off the crib sheet which summarises all the key skills learned within this section. You can add your own additional notes to the back of the crib sheet, and in that way you will have all your summary knowledge in one place, a handy one-page reference for this whole section.